Redstone contraptions don't tend to be the prettiest of builds. I mean, generally when you're making something with redstone, it's functional, it's not really beautiful. But in today's redstone video, I'm going to try my best to change your opinions on that, and we're going to take a look at 10 pretty redstone contraptions. This first one is what I like to call the twist, and it's essentially a better version of a button. Instead of having a button on the wall, then a sign next to it telling you what the button does, this actually has the label on the button itself. So if we right click on it, you can see that it does exactly what it says on the tin. Logic wise, it's actually incredibly simple. If we take a look around the back, you can see that we just have a comparator, which is detecting the position of the item in the item frame. Then we have redstone dust, and then we have ourselves an observer, which is running into our dropper. Now, of course, we can take an observer from anywhere around that piece of redstone dust, and that is going to be detecting the change in signal strength of the redstone dust, which means that we're going to be getting ourselves an output. So you can see that that piston is firing every single time we right click this item frame, which means that if you wanted to, instead of having right click for torch, you could have right click to open my door, and then have the redstone signal run out into your piston door, and that would open it up. It seems like a really good idea to me, and I'm going to be using these a ton on the Hermitcraft server. Speaking of the Hermitcraft server, this design right here is actually inspired by one of the builds from one of the Hermits. Hermitcraft Season 5, Good Times with Scar, built a modern metropolis, and in one of the lakes, he had a water fountain that looked exactly like this, and it completely blew me away because I'd never even thought of doing this before. All we have is a little slime block piston attached to a redstone clock, so that slime block is bouncing up and down, and then I've just fired some water breathing arrows into that slime block, and they're bouncing up and down. Now I know what you're thinking, okay, that's all well and good, but those arrows are eventually going to despawn. Well, they're not. The good thing about arrows that are constantly in flight is that they don't despawn. Arrows only despawn when they're actually stuck inside a block, which means that you're going to have a water fountain forever. And it looks absolutely fantastic if I do say so myself. Now, for those of you who have been watching my redstone videos a lot lately, you might recognize this setup right here. And that's because I've recently rediscovered that redstone lamps can be used as block update detectors. Now, this used to be a feature way back when I first started making videos, but then it got removed in one of the updates, but then somehow it's managed to make its way back into the game over one of the recent updates. And here we are taking a look at a pressure plate. Now, this pressure plate is really simple. All we have to do is walk over that piece of string, and the redstone lamp will actually detect the player doing that, and it will fire out a redstone signal. So you can see we've got a repeater out the back, and if we are quick about it, we should be able to see that yes, the repeater actually gives out a redstone signal, which means that we can hook this up into some form of piston door. If we take a look at the redstone logic, it may not make a lot of sense to some of you, but the way that this actually functions is we're redirecting the redstone current using this detector rail moving back and forth on this piston, and this redstone lamp hasn't actually realized just yet that it's not actually being powered by that redstone. And then when you give it an update, it goes, oh, actually, wait, I'm not being powered. And then this observer will actually detect that, reset the system, power the redstone lamp, then redirect the redstone signal, meaning that once again, we end up in this state right here. I feel like this is a good time to mention that there is a world download down in the description, so you can check out all of these builds in a little bit more detail if you need it. So we've all seen chests in our bases. Yeah, chests, they're okay, but in certain builds, they don't particularly look that good. And obviously, we've all seen item dispensers, but they can be a little bit ugly. This, I like to call the fountain of items. If we hit this button, you can see that, well, it does pretty much exactly what it says on the tin. It creates a fountain of items. In fact, it creates a fountain of exactly 32 items, half a stack. Now, the way that it does this is, first off, we have to have a stone button. It can't be a wooden button, it has to be a stone button. And then that runs out into this little pulse extender right here, which runs into this little toggleable redstone clock. That observer gets extended into that observer, and then for those of you who don't know, if you point two observers at one another, I think they actually get into a little fist fight, and they start sending redstone pulses back and forth, which we're then using to run it into our dropper, which of course is sending out our items. It's not the smallest redstone circuit in the world, but I have to say, it looks quite pretty. Hoppers, comparators, and redstone blocks were introduced into the game probably about a year into my YouTube channel. So in the early days of my YouTube channel, I was still making small redstone contraptions, didn't have many subscribers at the time, but one of my favourite things to do was to make magic buttons. And when hoppers were added into the game, and we could create little hopper clocks, I was very excited because suddenly my magic button circuitry got a lot smaller. As you can see, we have this tiny little system right here, and when we hit the button, you can see that we get ourselves a redstone output, even though that button is technically flying above the ground. these things look brilliant in modern builds. And for anyone who's interested in how it works, this button is sort of powering this piston, but the piston hasn't realized it yet, so we just need this little redstone clock to update that piston to tell it, hey, you're kind of powered, you should probably extend, and then it will power that repeater. Simple stuff. Next up, we have got two versions of a fairly similar redstone circuit. Now the idea is that you have a pretty wall, a little bit like this one, but it also has a function in that it can be transformed into a staircase. Now the idea behind this isn't necessarily to have it as a hidden entrance, even though it is kind of a hidden entrance. It's just to have a nicer looking way of creating a staircase. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Anyway, let's run this thing. If we flick this lever right here, you can see that with this design, the stairs all just get pulled back and we can travel right the way up through the staircase. Now the way that it works at this top section is we get piston action involved, we get some things being moved back, and we do have a few exposed bits of redstone dust, which unfortunately we can't do anything about, just because of the nature of the way that it functions. We've got double piston extenders, we've got these flush piston trapdoors and things. There's no way in which we can build this without having visible redstone. So that's why I also designed this thing. If we flick the lever, you can see that one of the stairs actually extends out the bottom, and then we get the stairs going up like this. There's no exposed redstone. The actual redstone itself is more compact and a little bit simpler because we don't have to have that flush piston door right there. We just have double piston extenders and single piston extenders. But there is also one slight negative with this design. That is the fact that you get this little gap up at the top here. Now I know what you're thinking, why don't you just fill it in? But unfortunately, no matter what you do, you can't do that because you won't actually be able to use the staircase. Now there is a way around this. You can actually put a piston up at the top that is connected into the redstone circuit like this, that retracts a set of stairs out the way so that we can still use the staircase, but you can also cover up this gap, and it all works perfectly and looks nice, but of course it does add quite a lot of height to the redstone circuitry. So you can do with it what you will. You can build this one, you can build that one, you can build it with the extra modification, or you can build none of them and just walk away from it all. It's all up to you. Let's be totally honest, okay? I have an odd obsession with armor equipping stations. I don't know what it is about armor equipping stations. I like them a lot, okay? I think they're really cool. I enjoy playing around with them. But this armor equipping station is different from any that I've shown on this channel before. As you can see, I'm currently naked, and if we stand on this slab and hit this button, I am now fully equipped in diamond armor. And let's just show this off again. If I just take all of this off and hit the button, once again, fully equipped in diamond armor, all from one dispenser. Now the idea is that this dispenser has the full set of armor in there. We've got the helmet, we've got the chest plate, we've got the leggings, and we've got the boots, and it's all controlled by this little redstone circuit right here. So when we hit this button, all 4 of those items are dispensed out onto the player, and then these dispensers are eventually fired, and that will refill this furnace with the 4 sets of armor, which means that you don't have to have the 4 dispensers out the front that you walk into. It all looks a little bit ugly. Everything can be fully concealed under the floor. We only have one dispenser which is actually working, and it can look really, really nice like this. I mean, look at that. That's absolutely perfect. Another thing that old viewers on my channel will know is that I'm kind of obsessed with firelighting as well. There was a time back in 2013 or 2014 that I uploaded so many firelighting videos that people would actually celebrate down in the comment section when I did a video that wasn't about firelighting. Yeah, hopefully those times have now passed and you guys aren't going to complain too much about this one, because you have to admit it's pretty cool, isn't it? So when we flick the lever, you can see that we get ourselves a nice light in the wall, and then when we flick the lever again, you can see that the entire thing is fully folded away in the floor. Now I gotta say, guys, I really, really like this thing, and I would absolutely love to build it everywhere. And what makes it even more appetizing for me is that it's actually quite a compact little circuit. I mean, there's not too much going on, and as you can see, it just works by pushing up and down that nether brick, and then a little bit of dispenser action. Nothing too complicated. This one, on the other hand, is a tiny bit more complicated, but it definitely works nicely. If we hit this button, you can see that our chests are revealed, and we now have access to them. And we have got no kind of glass sticky piston fronts on the front of here. It's all completely concealed away, but when we want our chest to go back behind the glass, then we just press that button once again, and they are folded back inside. So we have ourselves a nice little place that we can store our chests. They're kind of on display, and then when we actually need them, we can get access to them. Now, my only minor complaint with this design, which I'm sure some of you have noticed, is the fact that you can actually see the piston arms up here. So I guess my challenge to you guys is, can you get rid of them? But anyway, ladies and gents, unfortunately, that is actually all I've got time for today. Once again, there is a world download down in the description if you do want to check these things out for yourselves in a little bit more detail, or perhaps build some of them, then fire away. But anyway, if you did enjoy, please press that like button, and if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Mumbo, and I'm out. I'll see you later.